Good morning. So today I wanted to do a review of our Ram Promaster van. So it's a 2019. It is a 2500 with a 159-inch wheelbase. So there's 12 feet of cargo space behind the cab or the seats. Also, from the perspective, the main reason I want to do this review is when I was researching to see what cargo van I wanted to buy. Almost all the reviews out there are for van life or for converting into a camper van, which is sweet, but just a different perspective than if you're using these things for work. You don't really care if you can lay sideways in the van. It's more about how practical it is and how functional it is for your business. So that is kind of the perspective I'm coming from on this. I just wanted to give a good overview. So I'll do a quick walk around and then we'll go for a drive and talk about pros and cons on the van, things I do and don't like. I've had it for 2 years and 9,400 miles, and it's just been used for work almost all of those miles. So almost all of that is hauling or towing. So I have a pretty good idea at this point of the things I do and don't like and the overall impression of the van. So I'll do a quick walk around just to see how it looks and how it's set up so far. So we did a wrap on the front, mainly just to protect from like rock chips and that kind of stuff. The cab, so I'll try to show just quickly. I mean, all the cabs look the same on them, but we added a partition, but the cab is held up very well. I definitely like the floor mats just being rubber. Then you don't have to buy floor mats. It's easy to clean and maintain. I really like that the doors will fold all the way back around, and there's detents that hold them, so if it's windy or if you're on a hill, the doors still stay in place. So this did come with its own flooring beneath this, but it's pretty slick, and so for hauling cargo and equipment would slide around. So I added this horse mat on there. It also kind of deadens the sound in the cabin a little bit. And then also your material doesn't slide around or shift on this at all. I really like it has these tie down points. There are 8 of them throughout the cargo area, and they're attached to the frame. So it's great for hauling things and working. I added the paneling in the walls and reinforced behind it so that I could tie down material to the walls without causing any damage. Also, I added this to hold straps, and then this bungee just keeps things from rattling around because that drives me nuts. You can see the partition that we added. Wished we would have had a window in there, but not the end of the world. Also, there's a light switch. It has LED lights. I really like those. Pretty sweet design on Ram's part. There's storage up above there, which is actually super useful and well-used space. It'd be wasted space otherwise. So, and then there is a 12-volt power right there if you were to need it for something. Also, this van does come equipped with the tow package, which I'll talk more about that later. And one thing to note is how flat this floor is, and it's square. So if a ramp, which we use all the time for work, the Ford Transit is rounded. A ramp doesn't land on it as well. Also, all the way up to that sliding door is flat. So this Ram has the lowest load-in height, which that was one of the factors that I considered when purchasing this. And also the floor is flat all the way around, whereas like the Ford Transit, which is comparable van, has like a step down right by the door, which is wasted cargo area. Some people like it for a lower step in, but to me it's just wasted cargo space. So I'm going to show you my least favorite feature on this van. I think it was an absolute miss on Ram's part. It's actually honestly could be damaging to your vehicle, and it is right here. If you look at the shift lever, up is down a gear and down is up a gear. So that's only if you put it into the manual shift mode. If you're just driving this like normal, put it in drive, tow haul, anything like that, just like a normal vehicle. But if you put it into what would be called a sport shift in another car, in anything else and all the other vehicles we own, if you go into sport shift, if you push up, you're going up a gear, so you know, accelerating. And if you push down, you're downshifting. But in this, it's opposite, which makes no sense. Up is down and down is up. So that could be damaging to your car or your van if you're driving and you want to upshift and you have it in that mode, and you downshift and it's revved up. I mean, it honestly could cause some pretty big detrimental issues. So that is a mistake. And maybe there's some sort of checks and balances that won't let it downshift if you are going past a certain speed. But I just think that's a absolute oversight. That's my least favorite thing about this van. Okay, so I want to go over the things that I dislike first about this van, because the list is honestly pretty short. I already talked about that shift lever. You know, if you put it in the manual shift mode, bad design. If you just drive it like normal, fine, but it almost renders the manual shift mode useless, I think, because you have to, you know, dangerous. It'd be easy to make a mistake and cause damage to your vehicle. That would be the main thing I dislike about this. If I was being nitpicky, the way the transmission shifts at like low speeds, very light acceleration through a parking lot or something is a little bit clunky. I mean, that's being nitpicky. But the transmission shifts very well, especially, you know, under a load, or accelerating, anything like that. It shifts well. It's only if you're just driving through a parking lot, barely giving it any throttle, it kind of is clunky. Another thing that some people dislike, or I've read complaints about when I was researching these, is the seating position and with the partition. So if I'm 5'10", 5'11", and it's comfortable to me, but you know, if you were super tall, it may be of a concern if you have the partition, which would lead me to another thing that I, you know, kind of dislike, and that would be about any cargo van. But if you don't have a partition, there's a lot of cabin noise from rocks being kicked up by the tires, your cargo that you're hauling, that kind of stuff. It's pretty loud without the partition. I really like the, you know, having that. That was a nice addition. Another thing that I dislike is the steering wheel on these is only telescopic. It doesn't tilt, which is super goofy. It does work, and it's like, you know, you get it set where you want it and you don't move it, and it is nice to get used to it. But it would be nice to be able to tilt the steering wheel. That is nitpicky, as are most of the things I dislike, but it's actually kind of difficult to find things that I dislike about this vehicle. So I'll try to go over the things that I do like. So mileage, that's one, and I'm sure it varies a bunch. That is one of the reasons that I got the 2500 and not the 3500 was because of the gearing. I wanted to get better mileage. I got the V6. This is not the diesel, and over 9,400 miles. I have an app on my phone that I hand check it, so I don't just, you know, trust the computer. I hand check the mileage, and it has been like 17.6, and which I think is good. That is pretty impressive to me. That almost all of those miles are hauling weight in the van or towing. You know, I've towed a 8.5 by 16 trailer loaded with this thing as well, and it's done it. You know, I don't think it's the ideal tow vehicle by any means if you're looking at buying this for your business, but it will tow. You know, if you get in a pinch and you need to haul something, especially a light trailer, it does just fine with. So yeah, 17.6 miles a gallon over 9,400 miles. Like, I think that's impressive. You know, most all of that, like I say, has weight either in the van or behind it towing, and I think that's good. Another thing that I like, the heater and air conditioning, especially with this partition, are extremely impressive. Like, they're amazing. The fan is extremely powerful. The heat is crazy hot. The fan is, or the air conditioning is crazy cold. Like, they did a great job on that. Another thing that I do like is the driving position. You can see so well out of this thing with the way the windshield is. Another thing I want to address, some of the reviews, people complain about having the mirrors, like so your side mirrors, being hard to see. I mean, with my seating position, I don't have any issues with that. I can see out of them just fine. I like the position of them, but I guess depending on how other people have their seat set up, maybe it could be an issue, but I don't find it being an issue for me. So another thing that I love about this van is the brakes. So we've owned quite a few vehicles over the years, and even I had a one-ton Dodge diesel a few years back, and the brakes on this van are the best out of any vehicle I've ever owned. Like they're incredible. Even if you have a crazy heavy load in the back, the brakes are great. Like you can stop if you ever need to stop in a hurry, you can. I mean, the brakes are very good. Another thing that I really like about it, so I think this has about a 4,300 pound payload, you know, as far as what you can haul in your cargo area. And we haul dance floor all the time, and that's just shy of 2,000 pounds, but it's at the very back of the van, you know, the way we position it for unloading and loading with the forklift. And it handles weight really well. Like you can put a ton of, like as much weight as I can fit in there or have over the years, and it hasn't squatted excessively, and then it handles it well too. The van doesn't get squirrely or anything weird like that. So as far as the work aspect, it's just a great tool. Loading and unloading with the forklift is great. The side door is, I think, 48 or 50 inches wide, so you can load a pallet in and out of the side door if you need. I'm super pleased as far as, you know, the working end of this, how it's built for function. I think Ram did a great job on it. It's super user friendly, and for like a delivery business, or my dad's an electrician, for anything like that, I think it'd be a great van. Another thing I like about this, so I mentioned earlier that this has the lowest load-in height of like the main vans, you know, like the Ford Transit, Mercedes. The Ram Promaster has the lowest floor height, you know, for your cargo area. One of the reasons for that is front wheel drive, which does have pros and cons. I'm not going to say that's the bee's knees and it's good in every situation, because it's not. But I do like having front wheel drive, so I think it does pretty well for traction. And a lot of people talk about like, oh, well, if you have a rear wheel drive van and you have all your cargo on top of the, you know, rear axle, then you do get good traction, and that's true. But when you're unloaded, you don't get good traction on a rear wheel drive van. Whereas in a front wheel drive, you always have your motor with you because you're driving, and so you always have weight on top of your front tires. And if you are loading in the back, you can de-weight your front tires a little bit, but the axles are so far back on this van that if you put, I mean, it would be hard to put weight behind the axles because they're at the very back of the van, so you're still putting more weight on the front tires. So I think the traction does really well. You can notice climbing hills. If it's gravel on some locations I've been on, you can spin, but if you turn around and back up, the traction is actually quite good. You can get around really well. Which leads me to another thing that I'm really impressed with on this van, is this has the tightest turning radius out of the other vans I mentioned as well when I was shopping for this. And it's super noticeable and very convenient using this as a delivery vehicle for the last couple years. You get into some locations that people, you know, it'd be hard to park a smart car in, and you end up on, and you don't know, you get back to the end of this driveway and it's like, ah, shoot. But with this, it turns so sharp. It may take like a 6-point turn, but you can make it and you can get turned around, and that's super handy, because nobody wants to deal with backing down a half-mile driveway because you can't get turned around, and this vehicle turns extremely sharp. Who I would recommend this for, I think it'd be great for most any of the trades, any delivery services, anything like that. I think it's a great van, and if you're shopping, you know, price-wise compared to a Transit, this was less expensive when I was shopping. Maybe it's a little different now, but it was definitely competitive as far as pricing goes. One thing that I don't know, I would maybe look towards the diesel or something if I was going on the freeway constantly. Oh, which brings me to another thing I do like about it, the grade shifting. So I've done some over-the-road trips on this on the freeway, and if you're going down passes, this does a good job of grade shifting and downshifting for you to hold your speed. Side note. But, so if I was using this strictly to drive on the interstate, I may consider a diesel, just because it does well and doesn't have an issue shifting back and forth and maintaining, 70, 75 miles an hour. But if it's windy and if you have a headwind, this van does not like it. And that I've been dissatisfied with it pretty much only if I'm on a road trip and got to cover a lot of miles, and you get a headwind. The van struggles. Like it'll shift back and forth constantly. It's just not happy in that element, which is okay because I hardly ever have to take it on the freeway to go over the road. Most of my deliveries are within 100 miles or so, and so I don't really have any problems with that. But if you are looking for a van and you're going to be on the freeway all the time doing hot shots or something like that, it'd be something to consider. Well, I hope that helps. I tried to cover most of the things that I wanted to. I mean, I'm sure there's some things I forgot. But yeah, overall, I give this thing, a 10 out of 10 as a work tool. Is it fancy? No. Is it, ritzy inside, fancy interior? Nothing like that. Absolutely not. But it is a great tool for work. I've been really pleased with it. So if you have any questions or anything like that, just comment and let me know. And if I do have an answer, I'll get back to you. But yeah, it's been a great vehicle, and I think it'd be worth considering for sure if you're in the market.